Hey second grade, I am excited for today because we are going to be learning more information about coral reefs, specifically coral reef food webs and how each animal needs each other in order to survive. I also should say plants because plants are a big part of food chains and food webs. And just like that, that brought me into my first thing. Before we get started on showing you what you are going to need to do today, I want to show you something very important. The difference between webs and food chains. They sound alike, you probably heard both of them. They have a lot of similarities, but there's a little bit of differences, and I'm going to show you that now with this picture. So on the left, you will see food chains. On the right, you will see a food web. I want you to take a moment, look at both of those pictures, start to make your own ideas on what is the difference between food chains and food webs. All right, second grade. Now that you've had a chance to formulate your own ideas, I'm going to show you. So what you'll notice between food chains and food webs, which I'm sure you've already noticed, is food chains have a lot less animals than a food web. So a food chain is just one cycle of animals that are using each other to survive. So as you can see, the sun and the water give grass to survive. Then the grass gets eaten by the grasshopper to survive. The grasshopper gets eaten by the frog, so the frog can survive, and so on and so forth. Now the difference between this food chain and this food web is a food web is a whole bunch of food chains that interlock. So you'll notice at the beginning it's the same, right? Sun gives energy to the plants, and the plants get eaten by the grasshopper. But now you'll see that the grasshopper is in a whole bunch of different animals' food chains. The grasshopper is part of the hawk's food chain. It gives food to the hawk. The grasshopper also gives food to the weasel, so it's part of that food chain. And the grasshopper also gives food to the shrew, which is part of their food chain. So a food web is a whole bunch of different food chains that interconnect and interlock. So today we are going to be focusing on the coral reef food web, all of those little chains that make up the whole coral reef web. All right? So I am going to show you what you're going to do today, and then I'm going to send you on your way. The three things that you are going to be reading/watching today are these. You're going to start by watching this super cool video on the coral reef food web. After that, you are going to read this Nat Geo Kids article about crabs, these tiny little crabs that clean up the coral reef. Now, there's two ways you can do this, like normal. I will put up a read aloud of me reading the article for you in case you don't have anybody to read it for you or you're struggling with reading it by yourself. But I will also put the link in where you can read it by yourself and explore that article and look at the pictures, okay? Now, the last thing you're going to do is you're going to look at a picture of a coral reef food web. You're going to read this little blurb, and you are going to really study the picture and see which animals need each other to survive. You're going to notice that all these animals depend on each other in order to survive. Now, one animal I want to point out right now is the zooplankton. These are the zooplankton. They are the super small animals that they're called microorganisms, and they are eaten by some of the polyps in the coral reef. All right, so now that you've seen the three things you're going to be reading/watching, I am going to show you the assignment that you are going to be doing today. And it's really awesome. You have 3 questions to answer, and that's it. So it's going to be pretty simple for you guys to finish. Let me exit out of here. Now, the 3 questions you are going to answer, you need to answer after you do all of that studying from those 3 resources. So the directions say, after watching Exploring the Coral Reef, studying the coral reef food web, and reading the Crabs Clean Up article, which are the 3 things I just showed you, answer the following questions. Question 1 says, how do tiny crabs clean up the coral reef? So this question will be answered in that article that you're going to read called Crabs Clean Up. These next 2 questions aren't going to be anything that you can specifically pinpoint in these videos or articles. They're actually going to need some of your background knowledge and what you will learn today in order to answer. So you need to use what you think in order to answer these questions. What do you think would happen if the population of sharks grew and grew? So population means amount of sharks. So what if instead of 10 sharks, it turned into 1,000 sharks, okay? What would happen if there were more and more and more sharks? What do you think? Then, in this last question, it says, what do you think would happen if zooplankton were all destroyed or extinct? So that means if all the zooplankton, those little creatures that I showed you, what if they all died and they just didn't exist anymore? What would happen to our coral reef food chains? What do you think? Do you think it would be good, or do you think it would be bad? All right, 2nd grade, you are about ready to go on to doing your assignment on your own. I cannot wait to see all the information you learn about coral reefs. When you are finished, make sure to press the save button so that all of your information is sent to me. Some of you have been forgetting to do that, I think, and I don't see any of your information, so then you're not getting any credit. Make sure you press the save button. All right, 2nd grade, you are ready to go. Please leave any messages if you have any questions, or join one of my Zoom meetings.